Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for a new knowledge session. My name is Sandy Ratliff. I'm with Virginia Community Capital, and I'm one of the partners in this program that we have been doing. We're going on our 10-year anniversary. This is a collaborative effort with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, and the town of Abington. And we started this 10 years ago in support of the Washington County Business Challenge, which we're in the middle of our 10th year of that program as well. And the reason we started this is to help those entrepreneurs, new and existing, continue to growing their skills and to help them to be better business folks and be able to succeed in their business going forward. Now, before I introduce our speaker, I wanted to give you a few housekeeping rules. This session is being recorded for training and education purposes, and it will be available after the session on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator's Facebook page. But we also have a new knowledge channel on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/new knowledge, and you will find probably close to 200 workshops that we've done over the years. And then we will also have today's session on there. Now, to keep the webinar going and moving forward and staying within our 1 hour time frame, we do have everyone muted. However, we want to hear from you. This is a workshop to help you. So if you have a question for our presenter, if you will post those in the Q&A section, we will address those during and especially after the session. We're very fortunate today to have Sonia Vanhook here to lead our session. Sonia has a Master of the Science in Occupational Technical Studies with a concentration in business and industry training, has a variety of certifications in business training focuses. She's a board member of the American Advertising Federation, a steering committee member of the Southwest Virginia Higher Education College of Older Adults, and the vice president of the education for Wolf Hill Toastmasters and Toastmasters District 63 Public Relations Manager. Say that with peanut butter in your mouth. For the past 25 years, Sonia has been employed with the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center, where she is the Director of Educational Outreach. Her greatest accomplishment has been raising 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and she lives in Bristol with her husband and Jack. And I have known Sonia for a number of years, and it's been a joy. And this is not just a job, this is a passion for her. And I think you will enjoy her session today. So Sonia, thank you in advance, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sandy. You are wonderful. I appreciate everything that you are doing for the people who are running a business and starting a business in our area. And we're just so appreciative of everything that you have done for the business owners, the small business owners, my husband, Jack, being one of those who's been through some of your training and some of your programs. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of public speaking. There's my name and there's where I work. And when I wanted to give you an example of a famous speech, I went to the Gettysburg Address because that's what came to my mind. It was offered in November the 19th, 1863. It was the dedication of a military cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, delivered by President Abraham Lincoln, one of the most memorable speeches in American history. And the source for that is at the end, one of our history sites. It was fewer than 275 words. That fact right there explains to us or demonstrates to us that your speech doesn't have to be 4 pages long and 25,000 words. It can be small and short and yet be powerful. The purpose of this famous speech was to remind a weary public to fight and win the Civil War. There are different types of speeches. The informative speech is where we're going to start because it's the most common and it happens daily. You give information. Now, you may not think about just talking to someone that you're giving a speech, but it's actually characterized as an informative speaking. It could be delivered in an academic or professional knowledge setting, and it could be something like a progress report where you're just talking to someone in your company saying, here's what we did last year, That happens quite frequently in our department. In January, we have to give progress reports of what we did for the past 6 months. It could be directions on how to use a product. Say you have invented some wonderful new product and you're giving examples of how to use this product. That would be considered an informative speech. There's also persuasive speaking. One of the most common examples of this would be group influence. For example, a group standing around trying to decide where do you want to go for lunch. This may not happen in your group of friends, but it does happen in mine, where you stand around for 15 minutes saying, where do you want to eat? I don't care, where do you want to eat? And then I give an example. Okay, I want to go to Chinese. And somebody say, no, you don't want to go to Chinese. Well, yeah, I did. That's why I said that. So you can practice your persuasive speaking and just being that influential person trying to make a decision on where to go to lunch. We get tired of these around November when you have all these candidate debates. That's an example of persuasive speaking where they're trying to convince you to vote for them as that particular candidate. Motivative speakers, where you're trying to motivate others like a coach. See that example in your mind as a coach talking to their team at halftime. They're down by 2 touchdowns, and the coach is trying to motivate the players to reach within themselves and to win that game because he can't do them for them. He has to persuade them and say the right words to get them to win the game. An employment interview. This is where you're trying to persuade the people that are interviewing you that you are the best candidate for the job. And then another example is a sales pitch. We talked about the demonstration speech where you're trying to demonstrate something. A sales pitch is kind of marries with that, where you're trying to convince someone to buy a particular item. Another category of speeches is called entertaining speaking. Here's some examples. An awards ceremony. You've heard this over and over. I'd like to thank the Academy. And then somebody gives a speech on after receiving an award. They want to thank all the appropriate people and make comments as they see fit about their award and telling about their journey. A wedding toast, the best man toast and the maid of honor toast are very common. And these are places where a lot of people fall. They don't prepare their speech and they get up and just make a fool of themselves in getting that speech. But it's a type of speaking. It's called the entertaining speaking. You have comedy sketches. Those are probably some of the most enjoyable. And then poetry readings. All of these are examples of entertaining speaking. A good speaker equals a good leader, and a good leader has opportunities. A good leader will be given more opportunities in social settings, in your career, and other aspects of your life. So this is why we are focusing on being a good speaker. And this is why they felt it, your new knowledge organizer felt it was important enough to ask me to come and speak to you on this topic today. Effective speakers use eye contact. I'm trying the best I can to look at the camera, to advance the slides, to look over here to see who's looking at the camera. But it's very difficult in a Zoom situation, but you have to just do the best that you can. Eye contact. When I am in a live speaking opportunity, I look all around the room and try to look at the people and make eye contact. Move your view. I don't want to just speak to the middle of the room. I want to look over here and talk to the people that are here and sweep and look over there and constantly be moving my view so that I can see everyone and they can feel like we are connecting. Talk when you're giving your speech. Don't read your slides. Talk to it. You know the topic, you know your product, you know your service. Talk about your subject. Don't read a speech. Your voice is your instrument. Don't be afraid to speak a little louder when it's called for, or to speak a little quieter to get someone's attention. Your voice is your instrument, and you are the only person who can control that voice. Use hand gestures. If you're talking about a specific a specific product or something, you can hold that up or you can use your gestures, and that just makes your speech more engaging. And your body language. I'm going to ask you right now to freeze. Where you are right now, freeze. Some of you will be sitting there with your hands folded like this over your chest. What you're telling me is that your body is closed off to the information that I'm giving you. Maybe you don't intend to give that message, but that's what your body is telling me. Some of you may be sitting at your desk and you're leaning forward. When you're leaning forward, your body is telling me that you are listening to what I'm trying to say and that you are engaged in this conversation. If your finger is pointing one way and your face is pointing another way, this is a disconnection. Your body is saying one thing and your mouth is saying another. So you need to be aware of your own body language. Some of you may just have your arms crossed, not because you're not interested in the topic, but because you're cold. But this gives a message. The body language gives a message. So be aware of your own body language and be aware of reading your audience. If you see that you're losing your audience, then it's perfectly okay to make some kind of a change. What are you afraid of? This is a chart that I got from the Washington Post, and it shows number one is what the number one thing on this chart that people are afraid of is public speaking. And there are other things that you would normally find under heights and bugs and snakes and other animals, drowning, bloods and needles, claustrophobia, flying. I have a friend who says, I'm not afraid of flying, I'm afraid of crashing. And then you see all of these things that are listed down through there. The fourth one up from the bottom makes me question this particular survey. The respondents to this survey said they were afraid of zombies. Now, my suggestion to them is to stop watching so much TV and movies that have made you afraid of zombies and clowns, both of those things. I think there's my instant fix for that. But people are afraid of public speaking. Why? Well, in this next section, we're going to talk about controlling your fear. This is part of the Toastmasters Better Speaking series. Anxiety triggers. New and unknown situations might trigger your anxiety, risk of failure, potential for appearing foolish, the possibility of boring the audience. All of those things might trigger your anxiety. Probably the most common would be that first one, new and unknown situations. I used to have a friend who wanted to be the first person in the room anywhere we went together. And I said, why? Why do you have to be the first person? We have to be there 30 minutes before it starts. And he said, because everybody walking into the room is walking into my territory. And I'm thinking, oh, we've got some severe issues we need to talk about here. But new and unknown situations trigger people's anxieties. What are some of the symptoms of those anxiety? Increased heart rate. Have you felt it? You can feel your heart just pumping so fast. I usually feel that when I'm walking from my office down to Sandy's office. I get a good workout going down there, but that's when I feel that increased heart rate. Butterflies in the stomach or just an uneasiness in the stomach. Have you felt it? The uncontrollable shakes. You're holding a piece of paper. Maybe you've got your speech written on there and your paper is shaking like this. Or if you're holding a microphone and that microphone shakes, and whatever you're doing, you cannot make it stop. That's an example of some of those anxiety, lightheadedness. Now, I will say that I have felt all of these except for the lightheadedness. It's never been so bad in me that I've actually gotten lightheadedness or dizzy, but I know people that do suffer from these severe anxiety symptoms. Now that we know what these symptoms are and what causes them, how will we manage this anxiety? Get experience, practice in front of a mirror. I know it's uncomfortable to look at a mirror and to hear yourself talk because the voice that comes out of your mouth is not what people hear. You hear it differently because you're hearing it from the inside, but practice in front of a mirror. The more you hear yourself say the words that you're going to say, and the more comfortable you become with your material, practice in front of the mirror. It's first because it's the most common and it's the easiest to do. Rehearse in front of family and friends. Well, I'm going to say, consider who your family and friends are. If your family and friends are just going to laugh and try to disrupt you, I would say practice in front of your pets, because your dog will look at you with that little tilted head like this is the most fascinating thing he or she has ever heard. But the key word here is rehearse. Give presentations before other groups anywhere you can. Volunteer to give a presentation. If you are a member of a group that has speakers on a regular basis, then take that challenge, step up and volunteer and offer your program material. Because the more you do this, the more experience you have public speaking, the less anxiety you will feel. You are facing that fear. Every time you face it, you become a little bit stronger and the fear loses a little bit of its grip on you. Visualization is a technique that sports casters or sports players, sports coaches use. See yourself standing at the free throw line and making the basket. Visualize yourself doing it. Well, business leaders have said we should also employ that technique. Use your thought process to achieve positive results. Visualize yourself standing on the podium behind the lectern, giving a successful speech. And you can, the more you visualize that, the more closer you become to it actually being a reality. Some physical things, we talked about some mental things we can do. Visualize yourself giving your speech. There are some physical things that we can do, some exercising and breathing techniques. All right, push back from your desk just a little bit and put your hands together like this. Both of my hands are straight. My palms are facing each other. We will take a breath in through our nose and hold it. Ready? In through your nose. And as you breathe in, your hands will spread out. In through your nose. Hold that breath while you take your hands up. Release as your hands come down. Okay, we're going to do it again. This time, everybody do it. I know you're just sitting there watching me. Breathe in through your nose. Hold. And out. Out through your mouth. Those simple exercises, what you're doing is not only you're filling your lungs, you are controlling your muscles. When your hands are starting to shake like this, you're giving your hands something to do so that you are in control. And don't you find it amazing that your mind and your body are working together to do this anxiety? Your mind is freaking out and your body is saying, oh no, we're going to do these exercises. We're going to focus and we're going to control that anxiety. It's normal to feel nervous. Your audience won't notice it unless you bring attention to it. Do you know how many times I have seen somebody holding a paper and the paper's shaking? But the worst thing you can do is draw attention to it. A common statement I hear is people standing behind the lectern and saying, I'm glad I'm standing behind this thing so you can't see my knees knocking together. Don't draw attention to the fact that you're nervous. It's normal to be nervous, but you are working to overcome it. And then, of course, use the methods that we talked about to exhibit confidence. If only there were an organization that was developed that would help you practice your public speaking and develop your leadership skills. Oh, wait, there is. It's called Toastmasters. What is Toastmasters? It's a worldwide nonprofit educational organization that empowers people to become more effective communicators and leaders. The most common question I get is when I talk about Toastmasters, or I say I'm going to a Toastmasters meeting, what is Toastmasters? That surprises me because it's a network of over 364,000 members and more than 16,200 clubs across 145 countries. And yet people still say, what is Toastmasters? Well, I hope that we will be able to answer that question for you. We talked about it's a common fear. It's the number one fear of the people who took that survey. And I challenge you to find a survey where it doesn't at least appear in the top 10. People are afraid of public speaking. And we talked about the reasons why. People don't want to look foolish. So Toastmasters is developed to help people to overcome these fears, to give them a safe place to practice what they're going to say. And we like to say it's a safe place to fail. If you were going to give up and give a speech and totally bomb, we want it to be in a Toastmasters meeting where everybody's there to support you and to help you, to give you suggestions on how to make it better. We don't want you to bomb in front of a group of even 20 or a group of 200. We want you to practice that. It's an effective provider of dynamic, high-value, experimental communication and leadership skills development. Toastmasters focuses on two things: public speaking skills and leadership development. Maybe you're very comfortable speaking in front of a group, so you don't think that Toastmasters would be good for you or appropriate for you. Well, how are your leadership skills? Do you have room to grow there? Maybe that is the aspect where you need to focus. Wolf Hill Toastmasters is the local club. We meet on the second and fourth Thursday of every month from 3:15 until 4:15 p.m. Now, that's an odd time. It's because we meet at the Higher Education Center, and this is when rooms became available. Usually classrooms were booked until 3 o'clock, and it gave us that 15 minutes to reset the room and go in and use a room in case it was being used for a class earlier in the day. Our club is made up of business professionals. We meet in person and online. So maybe you're not local to Abingdon, but you can still join our club, join our meetings, just observe our meetings online. And then we have a Facebook page. Before I go to a group or before I go to a meeting, I like to check out the Facebook page and see, mainly I'm looking, is there anybody here I know? You will see pictures of people who are holding up certificates that they have earned, new members. There's a pin that they get when they give their first speech. And so you'll be able to see some pictures of some of our members, maybe in some of our social things we have participated in, and you'll be able to see if there's any familiar faces. And then Toastmasters.org has a space called Find a Club. You put in your zip code. Maybe you don't want to come to Abingdon, you're too far to Abingdon to come to an in-person meeting. You don't want to do online, you want to do in person. So you can go to Toastmasters.org, find a club, put in your zip code, and it will identify the clubs that are in your area. Sandy, we didn't have any questions coming through, so I'm going to open it now. Do we have any questions from any of the audience members?
I don't see anything right now, but while they're thinking of something, Sonia, in your experience, what are some of the top 3 tips if you're not comfortable in getting up and talking to people? How would you suggest someone prepare before they get behind the podium up on that stage or get a microphone in their hand? Maybe the top 3 things they should do.
Practice, practice, practice. The more times you hear yourself saying the words that you need to say, the more comfortable you will become saying those words. Don't read your speech. I actually went to a meeting not too long ago, and I hadn't seen this in a long time, but we had a presenter who read every word of the speech, and they were looking down at their paper. I could tell that they were nervous because I recognized the signs, but she read every word. And that presentation would have been amazing if she had just talked to us, just 12, 15 people in a room, if she had just talked to us and told about what she was talking about, her own company is what she was talking about. And it would have been absolutely amazing hearing the things that they have accomplished, the things that they have to offer. So practice, number one. Don't read, number two. And number three, control your body. Breathe before you get up there. Focus on that hand. If your hand is shaking, you can focus on that hand. And after you do it over and over and over again, you'll be able to stop that hand from shaking, or that paper from shaking, or your whole body that's shaking. You can control that, but it takes practice to do that.
I mentioned that we're doing the business challenge again. This is our 10th year for the Washington County Challenge. And one of the things that they have to do as part of the challenge is they have to pitch their business idea. They have to do an 8-minute business pitch. And that is so scary to some folks. But I said, times have changed now with the way we do business. For example, used to, you just call a supplier and say, I'd like to be a wholesaler or supplier or sell your products in my store or in my business. Well, with the way the times have changed, you almost have to pitch your business to even a supplier to get them to listen to you. So if you think that it's just a one-time off thing, it's not. You're really going to be presenting your business in all facets. For example, I work for a lending organization, Virginia Community Capital, and the better that you are when you're going to talk to a lender to sell your business, the more you know about your business, that you don't have to read it off, makes someone feel comfortable that, yes, I'm on top of things. I know all about my business. I know there's some things that maybe you can't remember the numbers and so forth. That, there's nothing wrong with you having a little cheat sheet to get those. But I agree. One of the things that I always caution competitors on the pitch part of it is don't read it off, because what that does, especially for the judges, that takes the attention away from what the content that you're presenting, and they're noticing you reading it off and getting irritated. So if you don't know your product, then you don't need to be up there pitching your business because you're not ready, or, you've got an accountant doing it and you need to get a hold of what's going on.
I know.
So that's something that I have learned.
I'm familiar with this business pitch that you had to go through, because I went through that, and I had to stand up there with my husband and talk about the business. Now, some people, we keep saying don't read it. So some people are tempted to just memorize word for word what they're going to say. I don't recommend that either. It's fine to have a cue card in your hand, or a little 3x5 card with bullet points. Number one, I'm going to talk about this. Number two, this. Number three, this. And number four, that. Because this is your product, your service, something you know all about. And when you stand up, you may be worried, well, I hope I don't forget to talk about this. It's fine to have a cue card right there, but don't try to memorize it word for word. Don't try to read it off the paper. Know all about it and be comfortable enough and familiar enough with your words so that you can just look at, number two, I'm supposed to talk about the area, or I'm going to talk about something like that.
Exactly. I'm still waiting for questions if anyone has anything. And I agree, the more you practice, the better you will be. And if you've got, if you carry one of these smartphones around and it's got a camera and video, there's nothing stopping you from recording yourself and playing it back and to see, gosh, I can tell that I was stuttering. And sometimes it is tough to look into a camera and talk. But one of the things that I find helpful is when I'm in a meeting, when you're looking at the audience, sometimes you have that warm soul of a person. You can tell in their eyes that they're supporting you. And if you're nervous and you don't feel comfortable looking at everybody, pick out those folks in that audience that you can look at, and that you're not just looking at the walls in the back anywhere but the people that are in there, because that to me makes it feel uncomfortable.
Another common technique, if you're in a room large enough, you can just look at people's forehead. it appears that you're looking at them in the eyes, and maybe you're afraid to make eye contact with somebody, but you can just look at their forehead, and that's just a little trick where they think you're looking right at them. They can't tell that you're not really looking into their eyes. And Sandy's a very wonderful speaker. The first time I ever heard her, she felt very comfortable in front of an audience. And I could tell that she has been doing this for a long time. She has that experience that we're talking about. That experience can come from talking to your mirror, recording yourself on your cell phone, talking to your pets, but give that demonstration, give that speech every time you have the opportunity to do so.
And like you said earlier, practice, 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 and look for opportunities that, that's how you grow your build skills, is by reaching out and trying new things. We do have a question from Tony Lowe. What is the best steps to take if you do not have much time to prepare, say, an hour or so?
Choose material you already know. But if you're told you have to give a report in an hour about a progress report or something, that happens to me quite often. Someone will say to me, we need to hear about the education department, and there'll be 2 or 3 board members, and we want you to come and speak to them. Then I go through that, having my little notes, point 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is what I want to talk about. This is the most important. And then I really want to concentrating on getting that message across to them. And if I don't have that time to practice, which is the other one, then I concentrate on my breathing skills, because it can get nerve-wracking. And I want to control this body that's reacting to something that this mind is thinking. If this mind is thinking, oh, you're going to fail, you probably are. So you have to control your mind and say, I can do this. I've got this. I know this material. I can talk to these people.
And if you have some visual aids, that's sometimes helpful to help you to stay on track of the content that you're wanting to share, to make sure you get everything out there. Because again, when you get nervous, it just seems like you get that blank wall. I know I've been on WCYB's noon news a couple of times, and you have 3 minutes on that interview. Right. And how are you going to cover everything about that event or that program in 3 minutes, and to make sure you get everything? And you always, I don't care what, when I walk out of there, I think, oh man, I forgot to say this and I forgot to do that. But, the nerves can get up with you, but it's just the more you're prepared, the better you will be. And, if you want to practice, not only join a Toastmaster near you or especially Sonia's, but, we do these new knowledges and plan those about 6 months or more in advance. If you have a specialized expertise in a product or a service, and you would like to be a presenter and do a session like Sonia did, let me know. You've got my email from the Zoom registration. And also I have organizations that usually contact me. Do you know somebody that can present on this topic? For example, I'm trying to help an organization find someone that can talk about pricing products, understanding how much cost do you have in that product, and you've got to make some money because that's why you're in business, and how you can compete and price a piece or a service to where you are covering all your costs but making a little money. And so if there's something that you're interested in doing, just drop me a line, and I'd be happy to see if I can put you on our schedule, or help you connect with some organizations that are looking for speakers. And Sonia, in regards to what to take up with you when you go to make a presentation, do you suggest, if let's say it's only a 3-minute or 5-minute thing, is to have you some cards, or as you say, the sheet of paper, but you don't want to see them, you're seeing your hands shaking, but is there anything that you suggest in that regard?
I take a sheet of paper, but I have my bullet points on it, usually because the 3x5 card, I'm afraid I won't be able to see it when I just look down. So I write it in 16 point, and I write it really big, point 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all I usually take with me when I give a presentation, is the piece of paper that has my bullet points. And then, of course, I take my self-confidence and I give myself this little speech that you can do this. And then I do my exercises, my breathing exercises. It's not always feasible to do the yoga with the hands and all this kind of stuff. That a yoga teacher told me to do that. But I can do the breathing when I'm just sitting there at a table waiting for them to call my name to come up. I can take the deep breaths. And I'm actually surprised at how much that comforts me. And it would work for anybody who is able to do that. Just take your deep breaths before you go up there and just concentrate on, you're trying to help these people. The message that you have is trying to help someone, or in my case, that's what I'm doing. And I focus on, I really want to be a help or a servant, a service to these people. So I focus on the reaction or the message that I have to give and focus on how that is going to help someone. And when I take the focus off me, am I going to look ridiculous, and put the focus on the audience where I'm delivering it, that's another way to help to be more effective as a public speaker.
And we've got another question. Do you have any tips for controlling the pace of your speaking? I have a tendency to rush, especially if it's a boring crowd. I understand. Been there, done that.
Oh, that's so funny. This last Saturday, I had a 45-minute presentation, and my husband pretty much told me I sounded like Minnie Mouse because I was talking too fast. You have to pace yourself. Have your little timer right here, your little phone, and you should know at halfway through your speech, you should be at this point. So you can just glance down at your timer. So I guess when you're going up onto the podium, you can take your notes and take your cell phone, but have the ringer turned on. But have it set where it can time you. And then you can say, all right, well, at this point, I should be talking here. And then it'll tell you whether you need to slow down, and just making yourself aware of how fast you are speaking.
One of the things that I teach in marketing classes for years is having an elevator pitch, because you never know how important that will be. For example, if there is someone, a potential business that you want to partner with, and you get this one unique opportunity to share your business and what your pitch is, the better that you're prepared, the bigger the impact you will make in that. And there's tons of examples on the internet, but a 30-second business pitch is that you talk about, what you do, the advantage that you offer your clients, and you have that in a format in your mind that you leave the person that you're sharing that with wanting more. That's the whole idea of doing an elevator pitch. And of course, you always have that business plan or business card ready to give out, because if they're wanting to learn about you, you want to be prepared to close the deal, as they say. And then there's other opportunities. For example, the Washington County, if you're in Washington County, they do a chamber breakfast every third Thursday of the month, and that's usually at the higher ed at 7:30 in the morning, and those are free to attend. That is a fantastic opportunity for you to get your business cards in hand and go and get introduced to some of the leaders right here in the county. And if you're not here in Washington County, I'm sure in your area there's opportunities with chambers and other events that you could do that. So I do recommend that. One more question. What if your audience is disruptive?
I have experienced this as well. If I am giving a presentation and I have the freedom to walk around, I will start walking toward the two people over here who are having this little side conversation. And the closer I get to them, the more they realize that I am aware that they're being disruptive. So I just physically walk over there in that direction. And then that draws the attention of the whole room. And remember that fear that we have of looking foolish. I don't want to look foolish as a speaker, but my audience member also, they don't want that focus on them. So if I have the opportunity, I can physically walk toward them, the disruption. Sometimes that helps. If I can't move, if I'm on stage and I can't move, then I will just focus my glance on them, focus my eyes on them, and they'll know that I'm aware of what's going on. There are hecklers, people who just enjoy being disruptive. And I have been known to just stop and pause, use that pause as an effective way to say, all right, I acknowledge you that you are making these comments. And whether you respond to them or not, you don't want to get in an argument match with anyone in the audience. Just pause, let that moment be, and then continue with your speech is how I would handle disruptive members if I can't walk right over there to them.
What is the best way to end a presentation?
With your contact information. Leave them wanting more. Here's my business card. Here's my name and phone number, email address. Here's how you contact me to get more information.
Well, great. Well, Sonia, thank you so much for leading our session today and for taking your time to share your expertise with our audience. I know I do enough presentations that I know it's not you just step up and do it. You've got to prepare. So I thank you for your time. And for those that are watching, I just want to remind you that this session today is being recorded, and it will be posted on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubators Facebook page. But also we have a New Knowledge channel on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and look up New Knowledge and you will find that. And you can find a full list of upcoming workshops either on the vastartup.org under events, or go to the Chamber of Commerce's website, Washington County Chamber, and then the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator. You can find a list of upcoming workshops. But I will note that our next session will be on February the 15th. That's after Valentine's Day. So make sure you hook up your Valentine with those chocolates. And that will focus on Canva 101. And if you are developing flyers, any kind of content that could be even video and so forth, Canva I have found to be a great resource. You can either use it online on your desktop, or they have an app that you can put on. I use it on my iPad all the time. But Catalina Pede with the Capital Region Small Business Development Center in Richmond will be leading that session. So I hope you can join us on February the 15th. And thanks again. And if this is your first time today, I hope you will be back. And I will share you the link on our YouTube channel. And if Sonia will share her slides, I'll be happy to share her slide deck with you. But share that content with some other folks that you work with, clients that could help them. That's why we do this, is to help our business community thrive and be successful. So thanks again, and hope to see you again soon. Bye.